His Medal of Honor citation is criminally short. I'm going to add some stuff to it after I get done reading it. But without further ado, he was born in Alabama, Isney, Alabama, although he really grew up in Mississippi. Here's the Medal of Honor citation for James William Lindsey, Sr.
Ready, aim, fire.
Honoring those who went above and beyond. It's Medal of Honor Monday.
For gallantry and intrepidity in action at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty, Technical Sergeant Jake W. Lindsey led a platoon reduced to 6 of its original strength of 40 in the attack on an enemy position near Hammich, Germany, 16th of November 1944. His men had captured their objective and were digging in when counterattacked by a German infantry company and 5 tanks. Armed with a rifle and grenades, Tech Sergeant Lindsey took position on the left and, in advance of the remnant of his platoon, and though heavily exposed to heavy rifle, machine gun, and tank fire, beat off repeated enemy attacks. Tanks moved to within 50 yards of him, but were forced to withdraw because of his accurate rifle and grenade fire. After driving off the tanks, he knocked out 2 machine guns to his front. Though painfully wounded, Tech Sergeant Lindsey continued firing and throwing grenades until his ammunition was expended. An enemy squad attempted to set up a machine gun 50 yards from him. Unmindful of his wounds and enemy fire, he rushed these 8 German soldiers, single-handedly closed with them, killed 3 with his bayonet, and captured 3, the 2 others escaping. In his fearlessness, inspired by courage and superb leadership, Tech Sergeant Lindsey carried on a brilliant defense of his platoon's hard-won ground, securing the position and inflicting heavy casualties on the numerically superior enemy. Now, let's do a little more background here, just to give this story a little bit of juice, because that citation's a little short, in my opinion. This guy joined the Army before Pearl Harbor. He joined in 1940. He joins, his infantry unit goes off to fight after we declare war. This man fought not only in Sicily, which was fierce fighting, he also fought in Normandy. Possibly you've heard about that. So he is already a salty veteran of this war. Now, have you ever heard of the Maginot Line? Everybody who knows about World War II has heard of it. If you haven't, that's just fine. Here's what it was. France, concerned the Germans were going to invade again after World War I, not that that would ever happen, France took this long stretch of ground where the Germans were pretty much forced, although they didn't end up being forced in hindsight, pretty much forced to have to come through there. And France built up all these fortifications. This amazing bunker complex. A lot of it's still there to this day, from what I understand. You can go see it. I've never seen it, but it was known as the Maginot Line. All right, you got that. Well, the Germans weren't going to let that go unanswered. The Germans built the Siegfried Line. The Siegfried Line. The Siegfried Line was essentially exactly what the French line was. It's all kinds of pillboxes and underground forts and these gigantic concrete teeth that were designed to stop tanks. It was heavy, heavy fortifications. Well, by the time Tech Sergeant Lindsey gets there with his unit, we are trying to get through the Siegfried Line. Remember, it was built so people couldn't get through. So gigantic, powerful invading armies could not get through. This is throwing yourself up against the very definition of a hard target. It said his platoon was 40 and whittled down to 6. It was 40 and whittled down to 6 after 500 yards. They were under so much artillery and mortar fire that his 40-man platoon, by the time they got done crossing 500 yards, was down to 6 men left standing. Now, that's already a big problem for a variety of reasons, but here's the thing. You're trying to take this ground from the Germans. And as we've talked about many times before, counterattacking it's a technique as old as time, as old as warfare itself. Okay, you got attacked, you got pushed off of an area you want, but they're probably hurting now after that attack. They launched an offensive, and yeah, they took it in the end, but what's their strength level at? Usually it's not great. So if you can organize yourself quickly and counterattack, you can oftentimes take back the ground you just lost because they're too weak to hold it. Which brings us to this situation. It was frigid cold. The ground was frozen solid. And what should have been 40 men holding this area were 6 men. And Lindsey was by himself. I think he was 30, 40 feet in front of his platoon, if I remember right. He was in front of the other guys, dug in by himself, and all he has is grenades and rifle rounds. He massacres so many friggin' Germans that eventually he runs out of ammunition. He's already taken out 2 machine gun nests. He's out of ammunition as he's watching them set up another machine gun nest. It referenced the fact that he was wounded. It was not only a wound, it's one of the worst ones you can have in war. It was a leg wound. Leg wounds are devastating. But he can't allow the machine gun nest to set up, and he doesn't have ammo, so attach a bayonet, and in he goes. And he just starts killing Germans with his freaking bayonet. He kills 3 of them, captures, he's alone. He kills 3, captures 3, and 2 are like, oh my gosh, get away from me. And they just take off running. He was by the way, it also didn't reference the fact that they kind of lost him when he charged and they had seen what he'd done. They decided right away he was getting a Medal of Honor. They called him a one-man army, but they all thought he was dead. They had gotten ready and prepared a Medal of Honor for him to give to him posthumously because he's dead, surely, right? Nope. Not dead. I mean, I don't know this, but I like to imagine him emerging from the forest carrying German skulls or something like that. The country was so wowed by this one-man army that he actually got his Medal of Honor in front of a joint session of Congress. I believe he's the first one to ever do that in the history of this country. Oh, I hope you didn't think he was done. James Lindsey was born to end lives. When Korea kicked off, he said, oh, I'd like to get down on that. And the rumor is he killed 150 Chinese soldiers in a single night. In case you're wondering if that is possible, I already told you before, the Chinese would line up en masse, just a mass of bodies, and they would throw themselves at our positions, especially dug-in machine gun positions. So actually, if you have enough ammunition and you can swap out the barrels fast enough, it is possible. I don't know how many bodies Mr. Lindsey had on his ledger by the time he finally got out, but that is a human being you want next to you in combat. And this might be my favorite part. You know how he was a tech sergeant? They had given him a commission, so he was an officer in the Korean War. As soon as the Korean War was over, he demoted himself back to sergeant. He's like, nah, I'd rather be a sergeant. I'm good. I can better serve this way. Actually lived through everything, and I believe he worked for the Forest Service for 10 years after he was out. How about that?